Assalamu alaikum. It's Friday. It's right before Jummah. Not right before. I have another hour, but that's why I look like this. I have to get this done. It's the last lesson. I'm calling it today Sheikh Jamil Ghazi's last lesson, lesson number 8. So, of course, on Friday you get the better rewards for anything you've ever done because it's Allah's favorite day. And it should be ours as well. And that's why I'm trying my best to have this done before Jummah prayer. So I have another hour. However, doing this translation, I have to say, has been very challenging. And perhaps it's because it's the first time I've ever done it. And it won't be the last time because, as I mentioned, I'm going to do next. Sheikh Fawzi Saeed will be my next sheikh that I will translate from. Now, why was this so challenging? After all these years, 14 years of doing YouTube videos, and even though I don't do a word-for-word translation, I translate from Arabic. But I think this one was especially annoying to Shaitan because when we speak about Ibrahim, you know, there's a big push now amongst all Arabs to just say, we're all Millet Ibrahim, without any clarification, without any details about who it is that you're giving such a place of honor to. Well, you would just like to lump everyone together so it would be politically correct and it would be certainly easier and it would be, look at this lamp in the background. Does that annoy you? I moved it so I could read better with it, but no, it's annoying me. Okay, so you can say that I believe that the way they are speaking about Millet Ibrahim is quite disingenuous because there's no clarification aqidah-wise. So be it. Isn't that my job? Yes, it is. So this last lesson is summing everything up as only Sheikh Jamil can, I think so far. Oh, may Allah yarhamu and give him the highest place in the Jannah, because with few words, with a vast background, he sums it all up. Now, I'm going to do something a little bit different. There's a transcript in Arabic, so you may catch me now to make sure I finish this properly, referring to that transcript in Arabic. Okay? I'll try not to, but sometime I might have to. So let us now begin our last and final lesson, which I call lesson 8. With my notebook. Trying to, look at me, look at how I'm so technically inept because I'm holding this stand that's supposed to be sitting down on a desk. But it can't because the light is wrong and, you know, my vision is so bad. So I have to be very careful of what comes in at me, which is usually not enough light. But then when I open the shades, it's too much light. I am really technically challenged, but that's okay because I'm not supposed to be tech head at age 78. Now, we stopped off previously talking about Isra and Maraj. And Isra and Maraj was something Sheikh says this has to do with Prophet Muhammad. What he saw, we did not see. And I mentioned before that it was halfway through the period of his doing dawah. And it was 11 years would be the halfway through point. Now, in verse 123 of Surah An-Nahl, Allah gave us 10 sifat for Ibrahim, descriptives of Ibrahim. And the Sheikh lists them. The first one and the most famous one is Ibrahim was an ummah, one man alone, equaled an ummah, a whole nation. Number 2, he was qanitan lillah. He was very humble in front of Allah, very humble and obedient. Number 3, he was Hanifa. We're going to go on a little bit with the meaning of Hanifa, meaning he only went straight. He didn't go to the left or the right. He just went straight. He didn't mail either way. Number 4, he was shakiran li ummihi. He was, there's no tashkil, so do I have to say li ummihi wa li an amihi? It means he was grateful for the favors Allah bestowed upon him. Number 5, Allah ijtabahu. Number 6, Allah hadahu. These words, ijtibahu, is, I remember when I first learned that word, I was alone and I so wanted to understand it. Ijtibah, it means Allah totally took a hold of him, so to speak, close to him, from the masses of humanity, and brought him extremely, he's special, ijtibah, that's what it means. Hadah, we know it means Allah guided him, al-huda. Number 7, oh my goodness, this is a long one. Atanu fi dunya hasana. Allah gave him a lot of good things in this life. And then number 8, wa innahu fil akhirah la min, I can't read my own writing. Well, of course, we know it's in the Akhirah. He is in a, can't read my own writing. Then Allah awhayna ilayk, speaking to Prophet Muhammad, an ittaba millata Ibrahim hanifa. Now, we're speaking here about Prophet Muhammad and therefore about all of us because we follow Prophet Muhammad. He's the last prophet. So when Allah caused the guidance of Prophet Muhammad to follow Millata Ibrahim, he was worth more than 1,000 men. You know, there's a saying in Egypt when they say, oh, hiya kamita rajul. Oh, hiya ka'alfi rajul. Saying, I don't want to say it, but sometimes they'd call me this because I was brave and I was in Egypt and also when I was in Jordan. I don't know if they were just saying the sayings that all the Arabs have certain things that they say and it doesn't really mean anything. Or maybe it's just supposed to be a compliment. I don't know. But I used to hear it all the time. Also, Ibrahim had so much taqwa for being an example for ibadihi. It was something having to do with his position. Because his position of meaning Hanifa, we have the saying, Hanifa ila wa Hanifa an. It's not the same thing. Hanifa ila would be going towards something. Hanifa an would be going away from something. But if you're just Hanifa, like Ibrahim was, he was straight, in other words, walking the straight path to be a qudwa for every single group that came after. Like, we know, the J's and the C's and the Muslims. You know my abbreviation that I use. Now, if you want to talk about leaders, Ibrahim called the leaders. He called first his family, who rejected him. Then he called the kings and whoever had power in his area. He openly announced his disavowal away from them when they didn't accept his dawah. Inni bara'a minkum wa mimma ya'buduna, until you believe. Kafarna bikum. Imagine that. Imagine someone doing that right now. And they're talking about Millata Ibrahim. that we're all supposed to join in on Millat Ibrahim, all the C's and J's, and us? Well, do you really know what that means? Well, that's why I'm here, to translate Sheikh Jamil Ghazi and tell you what that means. It means do it. Be straight. Be Hanifa. Don't tiptoe through the tulips, as we say in America. Tiptoe through the tulips. Try to play both ends against the middle and not proudly proclaim and strongly proclaim that we are on the path of Ibrahim and we are not playing games with you all. I love the meanings of the words, and I discovered something yesterday. We had an expression when we were young. Allah would say, come on. Allah. My dad would say, let's go. 8 children. Stop the dilly-dallying. Let's go. It was an expression called dilly-dallying. Now, the first TV show that we had was called the Howdy Doody Show. It was a cowboy show. This is so for me, miraculous that these words are coming in my head. They had a clown called Dilly Dally. That was his name, Dilly Dally. And I guess it was okay for a clown because my dad would say, stop dilly-dallying. Well, clowns are supposed to dilly-dally because they're clowns and they're supposed to make you laugh through their foolish behavior. But you know what? If you think about the word dala, yudillu, dalin, it really signifies being wayward and doing the wrong thing. So you see how the names that were given in the early days of television to characters that they knew children would love because they were always silly and foolish. You understand me? Last time I mentioned the Alcoa Hour, the first drama mysterious show in 48. TV was originated in my birth year, 1947. Alqaw, Asa. It's magic, supposedly, to people who don't understand. It means throw at them your magic. Well, it was appropriately named because the show, along with another show called The Twilight Zone, was all about weirdness. And it was very famous and everybody loved it. So, whoever they were, these producers and directors, they knew Arabic. They sure did. And they were being quite clever, and they probably laughed amongst themselves of how the pictures, the moving pictures, that was the first word they used for the cinema. They used to call it moving pictures. We're really gonna get them off that straight path because you see, these were all J's. You know what I mean. And they considered others, called the C's or the Gentiles, obviously on the wrong path anyway, so it doesn't really make a difference because they're called the Goyim, anyone who is not Jayish. See, it's hard for me to say Jews or Israeli are the ones who were wayward from the tribe of Jacob. This is just all too, in my heart, definitely what it's supposed to be. It's not what you think it is. It's not what you were raised to not know. The biggest reason is the Banu Israel. Israel means in Arabic, those who fight in the path of Allah. And then Allah says in the Quran, Alladina kafaru min Banu Israel, waladina amanu min Banu Israel. At the time of Isa, Prophet Jesus, speaking to his disciples, Al-Hawarin. Now, there's something here about Ibrahim's dad. People say, no, it's okay to say astaghfirullah for non-Muslims when they die, especially because Ibrahim made it for his dad. He said, I will ask Allah. I will intercede with you with Allah but I don't really have anything that I can guarantee you. But he did that, but it was an exception. It was only for him and his dad. We're not supposed to take that as an example. Because Ibrahim would say, "Our Lord, we have depended on you and never for 1 minute anyone else." He always called to Tawheed. And don't let us be a trial for alladina kafaru. Don't let them make problems for us. They see us weak and ignorant. And then they say if our deen was correct, it would help us. We're a fitna for them because this lets them hold on to their wrong way. Allah gave him Ismail and Ishaq. He left his son Ismail in a land, where am I? There was no zara. When he left his son Ismail with Ismail's wife Hajar, they were in a very barren place. Now, when I used to ask about this, would it be a desert? Is that where they were? I remember being in Egypt and trying to get some handle on this. And they would always say, "Oh, you can't put geographical definitions on the verses in Quran. You can't do that." And I'm saying, but wait, if it's in a land with no vegetation, it would be the desert, right? Wouldn't it be? And then finally, I had one Quran teacher who came clean with me, and she said, yes, in an area which today we call Saudi Arabia. Then Allah told Muhammad to follow Ibrahim. Now, if we know the amount of time that is between Muhammad and Ibrahim, it's like 1,000 years. And we know that Prophet Muhammad was the best man to ever walk the earth. Now, some people say, but wait, what about all the other prophets? And how can you say Ibrahim was the best? Muhammad was the best man to ever walk the earth. One of the reasons is, as is commonly pointed out, that he was a qudwa in every sense, and many of the other prophets weren't in every sense. They were with their tawheed, yes, but the other factors of a person being a qudwa would have to do with their full life. So if you think of Prophet Muhammad, how he was an orphan and his parents both passed away when he was young, well, right away, that's a big deal. Because in the Arabs, that would almost be like something wrong. I mean, how could you think you're going to live without your parents? So he was really tried in that sense. And then his relatives came to help him, etc. And then he was married many times. Well, that's not the average. The average is 4 times, and that's your limit. And then all his sons died during his life. And he was left with his daughters. And all his daughters died except Fatma in his life. So if you think about the trials that he experienced, the extreme pain of being left, the year of Huzn, when his children died and his wife Khadija died. And so he went through the gamut of human emotions, not to mention being a warrior, yielding a sword, facing enemies of all different types in many different environments. This was something above the average life. All of it together, above the average life of other prophets and messengers. So I'm going to stop at this particular juncture, almost 20 minutes, and I'm going to have to make part B where I'm going to read you the actual transcript. I'll read it in Arabic and I'll translate it for you because there's so much here, and I said I'm going to stop at lesson 8. but I'm going to call it Part B. And that's where we're going to read the transcript to make sure, and it's only 20 more minutes of the lesson. But, when it's translated, it becomes longer. So I'm going to do a little condensed version to make sure on this day, Friday, January 8th, 2026, that I will have done my due diligence for the story of Ibrahim Hanifa. وَمَا كَانَ مِنَ الْمُشْرِكِينَ. So, I'm closing here, and I'm going to make now Part B of Lesson 8. And I hope I make it to the Friday prayer on time. Won't wear this, though. This is just because my hair's wet. So, just wait a minute while I switch. Assalamu alaikum.